One more technique that I'd like to discuss is, obviously, we looked up to now how we can create solid body or an assembly of bodies, how we can use the combine tool. Obviously, it was a bit difficult to use the combine tool itself to split this body without creating additional geometry. What I was trying to do a few minutes ago that I was struggling with is I was trying to select, this surface area to actually split the body, but it wasn't allowing me to create that selection. And that's because I wasn't using the correct tool in the intersect property. Actually, next to it, you have the split body tool, where if you select this, you can select your body. And now, obviously, the cutter tool is the same as per the combine tool. You can see you have the same figure or the same button. This can get confusing when you're using several of these tools or you haven't used them for a long time. Obviously, using the split body tool, now it sort of allows me to select a surface area to split the bodies. And if I select this surface area, now you can see that I have this solid body and these two set of solid bodies. Now, if I split this set of solid bodies as well along this surface, now what we have is three solid bodies. So we have this top edge, which we can combine with, actually, if I go back onto the combine section, we have this middle surface, that we can combine with this surface. And pretty much what we end up with is the same effect, but with less geometry drawing. Obviously, it can get really complicated and you need to make sure you are using the correct tool for the application, right, when you split the bodies. Obviously, the combine tool is the main one that you use, and these are some subsets of the combine tool. As you have, obviously, the fill tool, and you have some other properties of the fill tool to the side, but the main one that you use is on the left. Weirdly enough, in this user interface, as per the pull tool, you have the revolve over here and the scale tool. They're not right next to the pull tool in the ribbon. They're over here on the left. However, the designers of this software of SpaceClaim or this application decided that in the combine tool you just have a few buttons over here, but they've split it out to the right with several different options or different features that you can use over here. So yeah, that could be a more useful tool, the split body, where you can actually select it and split it much easier than using the main combine tool for the purpose or application. Now, let's do a bit more practice. On this concept. Let's say you wanted to create a pyramid, just for conceptual purposes. What you'd start off with is you'd like to start off with a square. So if we make all sides equal, and then we pull that out, right, you'd be wondering, well, how can we create a pyramid out of a cube, right? Well, pretty much what we do is, if you think about it really, a pyramid is just two triangular faces intersecting. So if we create some reference geometry on one edge of the cube, right, sort of a pyramid shape. Obviously, we could have created this initially and extruded it, but creating it this way gives us a bit more of an understanding of how cutting geometry can help, right? we can use the pull tool on this surface and this surface, right, using the cut option to make sure we remove material. Ended up with half of a pyramid, let's say. Now we need to sort of do the same thing along this edge. However, we need to create a sketch along that edge. Obviously, if we select this face or this surface and we create that geometry, it might not actually suit our needs per se, depending on how SpaceClaim decides to perform the cut operation. If it performs it at an angle, then we might have to revisit our geometry. Let's just do a quick test over here. Right, you can see the arrow is sort of facing perpendicular to the plane. So if we cut it, it does cut it along the plane, but that you can see that gives us a sort of cut angle over here because it goes along that edge rather than just straight along the edge as we'd prefer. Now we might have covered, right, using the advanced pull option, that if we select the surface of it, it shouldn't extrapolate the figure. But that's sort of, obviously I've done the geometry. I haven't done it really accurately. When I've drawn it, I haven't dimensioned it. But this could give you sort of an idea or an impression of how you can create a pyramid going from a square surface. But what might actually help, or what might be a more logical approach, is because obviously in the previous example it sort of cut it at an angle, so we didn't end up with equilateral faces. If we sort of create a plane right here on this edge, so it faces straight, so we don't have any angles to deal with, this might give us actually better results when we actually perform the cut operation. Obviously we need to align our plane or our surface. Right, let's try to draw some geometry now. Let's say we want to do it. Oh, that's the one problem when you create geometry really quickly. SpaceClaim tends to only prefer to snap it to the grid, right? Obviously, if you hold Shift, it lets you select different points. It disables the snapping feature. That's just a quick hotkey. But generally, you'd want to use the grid to help your design, or to help you when you are designing your parts. Just for reference, right now I'm just sort of eyeballing all of these dimensions right here quickly, just for the purpose of this demonstration. Now let's try to do the pull again using the cut option. Now let's see if this gives us a better result. And as you can see, now we've ended up with a much better representation of the pyramid. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there are different options, different techniques that you could use to create your geometry. None of them are, let's say, some of the tools, some of the techniques might be better than the others. But the more techniques that you learn, the more techniques that you use, the more that you practice using these tools, you sort of learn to gauge which tool is better for what application. So as you can see, previously I attempted just to get along by using the surface of the pyramid itself to do the extruded cut on the sides. However, that didn't work 100% as I would have wished. So I had to change my technical approach, right? I had to say, okay, what is actually resulting in this edge over here sort of being slanted? What angles are actually affecting my extruded cut? And I said, okay, just doing a bit of brainstorming, a bit of, playing around with the model. I said, okay, maybe it's because I'm working off of an angled sketch plane. So, using that hypothesis, I created another sketch plane that was purely vertical to see if that affected my model in a different way. As you can see, that yielded sort of a better approach or a better technique to actually cut it. So yeah, that's one way of creating a pyramid, right? Obviously, if we select pull on the bottom surface, you can enlarge or contract your pyramid as well. Obviously, once you're done with the sketch plane, you can delete it so it doesn't appear on your model as well afterwards, right? When you export your model or when you send it off to a supplier, you wouldn't ideally want to have that sketch plane in there just because it looks messy. But what I would do, what's good practice to do, is you save a SpaceClaim working file with all of this additional, let's say, helper geometry in there for occasions where you actually need to edit it. Otherwise, you might have to recreate the sketch plane or recreate some of this reference geometry. But for the final model, you'd usually remove all unnecessary or unneeded geometry just for neatness. It looks just more professional in that way.